Hari Om. In this part, we will explore the meaning of the 12th sloka of Sri Vishnu Sahasranamam. Vasur Vasumanah Satyah Samatma Sammitas Samaha Amoha Pundari Kakshu Vrishakarma Vrishakritihi. Now, let's examine the meaning of this sloka. The word Vasu has several meanings. One, who dwells in the hearts of his devotees. One, who dwells in the Milky Ocean, also known as Kshirasagara. One, who is the treasure that his devotees seek. Or the best among the 8 Vasus, Pavaka or fire. Or one who lives in the sky. Vasati iti Vasuhu means one who dwells. He dwells in the hearts of his devotees who show even a small amount of devotion. Salokanam hitarthaya shirodhe vasati prabhuhu. The great Lord resides in the Milky Ocean or the Kshirasagara for doing good to his devotees in this world. Isha Narayana Shriman Shiranava Niketanaha. This Narayana is always with Lakshmi and resides in the Milky Ocean. The word Vasu also means wealth. Vasati Niti Matham Gruha iti Vasuhu. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 19, the Lord says, Vasudevaha Sarvam, meaning Vasudeva is everything. He is the ultimate wealth that learned men seek. He is Vasu because he is the one of the 8 Vasus. Sri Shankara gives the following reference from the Gita to support his interpretation. Vasunam Pavakas Chasmi. I am the Pavaka among the Vasus, meaning he is the god of fire, and by burning he purifies everything. This is from chapter 10, verse 23. Vasu also means one who, as air, moves about and has residence in the mid-region. In the Kathopanishad, it is said, Vasurantikshasat. Vasumanaha has 2 meanings. One, who has a wealthy or rich mind. Second, one who has a mind which thinks of his devotees as a treasure. Bhagavan is Vasumanaha because his mind is unpolluted by anything such as attachment, hate, and other afflictions like lust or infatuation. He has a mind which has none of the sins of passions and pains, none of the storms of desires and jealousies, none of the quirks of likes and dislikes. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 19, Lord Krishna says, Vasudevam sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabha. Knowing me to be the ultimate cause, such a great soul is very rare. Hence, the Lord thinks of his devotees as a treasure. Satyaha. The most commonly known meaning for this word is truth. The support for this interpretation comes from the Mahabharata. Satye pratishtitaha Krishnaha sathamasmin pratishtitam sattha satte cha govindaha tasmat satyaha sathamataha. Meaning, Krishna is rooted in Satya and Satya is rooted in Krishna. Existence and non-existence are grounded in Govinda. So great men opine that Krishna is truth itself. There are 2 other meanings. First, one whose form is made up of prana, matter and sun. Sri Adi Shankara gives the following from the 8th Aranyaka in support of this. Saditi pranastityanam yamitya savadityaha. Sat means prana, ti means food, and yam the sun. He is Satya because his form is made up of prana, matter and sun. He is Satya because he is well disposed towards the noble souls. Satsu sadhuvat satyaha. Swami Chinmayananda points out that in philosophy, Satya is that which is the same in all three periods, past, present and future. He is the only one who fits this definition, and so he is Satya. Samatma means one who has an even mind, one whose mind is unbiased by love or hatred. He is also Samatma since he does not distinguish one from another when it comes to his thoughts on his devotees. Since he is the soul in everything, he finds no distinction between them. Since he is unattached to anything, he sees everything and everyone as equal. Sammitaha. The word Sammitaha has two meanings. First, one who has let himself to be understood and controlled by his devotees. Second, one who is seen and accepted by the rishis and revealed in the Upanishads as the truth. Both the meanings are based on the word samatha, meaning accepted. The first interpretation is by Sri Parasara Bhattar, who points out that this name signifies that he willingly accepted the role of being controlled by Kaushalya, Yashoda, Dasharatha, etc. He chose the parents to whom he was going to be the child and then played the role of the child willingly. Samaha means one who treats all his devotees equally. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 29, Krishna says, Samoham sarvabhuteshu, meaning I am equally disposed towards all beings. Sri Adi Shankara interprets the meaning as one who is the same at all times. He also gives another interpretation that he is with Lakshmi always and therefore he is Sama. Amogaha means one who always gives fruits to those who worship him. We have the following from the Ramayana. Amoham darshanam Rama nacha moha tavastavaha amoghaste bhavishyanti bhaktiman taschaye naraha. Meaning, O Rama, a sight of you is never futile. The praise of you is also never futile. Those who are endowed with devotion to you will always be successful in their life. Pundarika Akshaha. Pundarikam means the lotus flower. Akshaha means eyes. Hence, Pundarika Akshaha means one whose eyes are beautiful like the lotus flowers. A second interpretation of this is one who pervades the hearts of everyone and observes everything. Pundarikam Hritakamalam Akshati Tiva. Sri Parasara Bhattar gives the meaning to be Vaikuntham for the word Pundarika based on the following. Pundarikam Param Dhama Nityam Aksharam Avyayam Tad Bhavan Pundarikakshaha, and interprets Pundarikakshaha as one who is the eye for the residents of Sri Vaikuntham. Pundarika is the transcendental world which is eternal, indestructible and immutable. He is like the eye to that world and hence known as Pundarikaksha. Speaking of eyes, here is an interesting story of Sri Kuratarvan. Kuratarvan was born as Kuresan in a small hamlet, Kuram, near Kanchipuram, in the year 1009 AD in an affluent family. Kuratarvan was married at a young age to Andalamma, a devoted and pious lady. Both of them were deeply devoted to Lord Varadaraja Perumal in Kanchipuram and were famous for their unstinting philanthropy and kindness. Later on, they moved to Srirangam, where Kuresan approached Swami Ramanujan and became his disciple. Soon, Kuratharwan became one of the principal disciples of Swami Ramanujan and assisted him with the compilation of Sri Bhashyam. At that time, the then Chola king was influenced by certain groups, and he ordered Sri Ramanujan to be brought to his court. Coming to know this, Kuratharwan immediately rushed to the mutt in Srirangam and requested Sri Ramanujan to move to a safer place. Upon the insistence of Kuratharwan, Sri Ramanujan, along with several other disciples, moved to Melkot. When the soldiers came to the mutt, Kuratharwan was dressed up as Sri Ramanujan. Mistaking him to be Sri Ramanujan, they took him along with Sri Mahapurna to the royal court in Cholapuram. At the court, the king wanted them to sign a written declaration that read, "Nothing higher than Shiva exists." But both of them refused and argued the supremacy of Lord Vishnu, quoting from the Vedas, Upanishads, and various other holy texts. The king got furious and ordered their eyes to be pulled out. On hearing the statement, Kuresan grabbed the quill from the king's hands and said, "But let me save you the trouble, you tyrant, for I shall pluck out my eyes by my own hands. These eyes that have set sights on a sinner such as you have no further use for me." So Kuresan plunged the sharp writing quill into his own eyes, threw his eyes on the floor at the king's feet. While the king was shocked by the action of Kuratharwan, he still went ahead and ordered his soldiers to gouge out the eyes of Mahapurna as well. Kuratharwan spontaneously uttered the following verse: "Yo nityam achyuta padambuja yukmarukma vyamohatas taditarani tranayamene asmat gurur bhagavatosya dayayakha sindhoho ramanujasya sharanam sharanam pravatye." Meaning, the holy feet of my master, Swami Ramanuja, are my sole refuge. For he is an ocean of mercy, and for him all else is worthless other than the supreme wealth, that is, the feet of the Lord. Both make their way back to Srirangam, but Sri Mahapurna loses his life midway. Later on, the blind Kuratharwan moved to a town near Madurai. Meanwhile, the Chola king died and his son succeeded him. He was a wise king, and he allowed freedom of faith and worship amongst all his subjects. After living in exile for over a decade in Melkot, Swami Ramanujan returned to Srirangam. Hearing the news of his Guru Ramanuja's planned return to Srirangam, Kuratharwan hastily returned to Srirangam and awaited his Guru's arrival. As Ramanuja reached Kuratharwan's house, Kuratharwan tottered and fell forward at Ramanuja's feet and clasped them tightly to his eyeless, scarred face. Ramanuja was speechless and tears rolled down his cheeks. He whispered, "What have you done? You have given your eyes, the eyes of faith, for the sake of our faith." When Kuratharwan heard his Guru's familiar voice after 12 long years, he was simply overwhelmed. He said, "My master, if I had to lose my eyes, it was but in atonement perhaps for some sin I may have committed. Perhaps I may have once happened to pass by some good Sri Vaishnavan and may have said to myself, 'How clumsily this man has applied his Udvapundram on his forehead. Hence, sir, my punishment is rightly deserved.' Ramanuja said, 'My beloved Kuresa, you and sin never. Rather it is all my sins for which you have atoned all these years?" Ramanuja then asked Kuratharvan to pray to Kanchi Varadar for the restoration of his eyes. Kuratharvan said, "I have no desire to see anyone except my Guru and the Lord." The Lord restored him with special sight, thus fulfilling his desire. One day, while Kuratharvan was at the temple, Lord Ranganatha appeared and said to him, "Kuresa, you have pleased me. Ask me of anything you want." Kuratharvan quickly replied, "O Ranga, you have bestowed me with everything and every gift in my life. There is nothing that I lack." Upon insistence of the Lord, Kuresa then asked that he be released from his mortal body and be merged with the Lord's feet. The Lord, however, demurred and said, "Ask me anything but that." Kuresa said he had nothing else to ask, so Ranganatha finally relented and said, "Let it be so then. What you have asked of me, Kuresa, shall be boon for not only you, but also a boon conferred upon everyone that has any sort of kinship with you." When Swami Ramanuja heard of this incident, he was startled, as usually it is the Guru who intercedes with God for his disciples' salvation. Ramanuja is a bit remonstrative, but Kuresa spoke in soft tones. "My master, my sole purpose was to preserve the order of precedence in the Paramapadam, in God's kingdom. Sir, in the Pasuram Mudiyudai, it is said that our elders in heaven who preceded us come out of the gates of Paramapadam to welcome their younger ones when it is the latter's turn to arrive there, and then usher the younger one into God's presence. Sir, but I consider this to be improper order. It is the younger ones who should always go first and prepare in heaven to receive and welcome their elders. That is the order of precedence I wish to preserve." When Ramanuja heard Kuresan's stirring words, his whole body shook with tremors of emotion. His spirit melted. "My beloved Kuresa, you forget the rule that in heaven all such differences and distinction between an elder and a young, between the wise and the ignorant, between a saint and a sinner, simply don't exist, and they disappear. And yet, you wish to perpetuate the same relationship that exists now. Kuresa, is there anybody to match you in this world?" Swami Ramanuja could not contain his tears and embraced Kuresan. Thus, Kuratharvan achieved salvation not only for himself but also for his Guru and others who were associated with him. The Lord always showers His grace on His devotees with His merciful eyes, His Divya Kataksham. Vrishakarma means one who is of righteous action. Vrisha means dharma or virtue. Abhilashitam varshatiti vrishaha. Swami Chinmayananda points out that his actions are righteous and he acts only to establish righteousness. Now let's look at the Kurma avatar. Once, Sage Durvasa gave a garland to Indra, the king of gods. Indra placed the garland around his elephant. However, the animal trampled the garland. The sage felt insulted. He cursed the Devas to lose their immortality, strength, and divine powers. After losing their kingdom, they approached Lord Vishnu seeking his help. Lord Vishnu suggested that the Devas pour medicinal herbs into the ocean of milk and to use Mount Mandara as a churning stick to get the elixir of immortality. However, the gods could not uproot the mountain. Vishnu advised them to make a pact with their enemies, the Asuras, so that both parties can share the nectar. This caused much apprehension among the Devas. However, Vishnu simply smiled and provided them his reassurance. The gods and Asuras eventually made their pact to jointly churn the Milky Ocean. Together they uprooted Mount Mandara and used it as a churning stick, wrapping the serpent Vasuki around it and using the serpent as the churning rope. Vishnu instructed the Devas to take the head end of the snake, while the Asuras were asked to take the tail end. The Asuras insisted that they should control the head end. However, this was a reverse psychology by Vishnu, for when the churning began, the Asuras were promptly weakened by the poisonous breath from the mouth of the serpent. Finally, Mount Mandara churned, but the force was so great that the mountain began to sink into the ocean of milk. Taking the form of a turtle, Kurma, Vishnu bore the mountain on his back as they churned the waters. As the churning progressed, Halahala, or the poison, appeared first. Lord Shiva drank the Halahala, or the poison that churned up from the Samudra Manthan, to eliminate its destructive capacity. Shocked by his act, Goddess Parvati strangled his neck and hence managed to stop the poison from spreading beyond his neck. However, the poison was so potent that it changed the color of his neck to blue, earning him the name Nilkant. Totally, 14 things emerged from the churning of the ocean. The Halahala, or the poison. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, appeared from the ocean and hence known as Alaimagal, daughter of the ocean. Lord Vishnu met his wife, the beloved Lakshmi, who has become one of the most widely worshipped goddesses. Varuni, the wine goddess. Soma, the sacrificial elixir. Apsaras, the celestial nymphs. Uchchaishravas, or the divine horse. Kaustubha, the celestial jewel. Parijatha, the celestial tree. Surabhi, the wish cow. Airavata, the royal elephant. Panchajanya, the conch. Sharga, the bow. Dhanvantri, the physician. And finally, the ambrosia, or the nectar. The Asuras immediately took the nectar and quarrelled amongst themselves. Vishnu then manifested himself as the beautiful Mohini and tricked the Asuras to retrieve the potion, which he then distributed to the Devas. Though the Asuras realized the trick, it was too late. The Devas had regained their powers and were then able to defeat their foes. Thus, the Lord once again established Dharma. Vrishakritihi, one who is an embodiment of Dharma. Vrisha means Dharma and Akriti means form. Hence, Vrishakriti means one whose form itself is Dharma. Lord Rama is considered Dharma incarnate. Bhagavan says that he does his actions according to Dharma and he has nothing to gain or lose by any action. Na anavaptam avaptavyam vartayevacha karmani. Bhagavan also says dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge, meaning I will incarnate for the sake of preserving dharma millennium after millennium. And true to his promise, he has taken 9 avatars thus far to restore dharma. Hari Om Tat Sat.